You're listening to Penguin Classics On Air.
This program is brought to you by Penguin Books, the publisher of The Gamble. Thomas E. Ricks's #1 New York Times bestseller, Fiasco, transformed the political dialogue on the war in Iraq. The Gamble is the next news-breaking installment. Thomas E. Ricks concludes that the war is likely to last another 5 to 10 years, and that the outcome is a best-case scenario. His stunning conclusion, stated in the last line of the book, is that the events for which the Iraq War will be remembered by us and by the world have not yet happened. The Gamble, available now in paperback.
Welcome back to Penguin Classics On Air. Julia Gruen was Keith Haring's studio manager from 1984 until his death in 1990. During this period, Gruen assisted Haring with virtually all of his extensive projects worldwide, including exhibitions, public murals, events, publications, licensing, and the openings of the New York and Tokyo pop shops. She is both the executive director of the Keith Haring Foundation and the co-executor of the estate. Gruen has collaborated on the organization of solo museum exhibitions of Haring's work in over 30 countries, has written extensively about the artist for numerous publications, and is a frequent lecturer on the artist's life and work. When and how did you meet Keith Haring?
I met him in 1984. As the ads used to say, I found my job through the New York Times. Keith's gallery at the time placed an ad in the paper seeking a studio assistant for an unnamed artist. So my initial interview was with the gallery, and they felt that I had the right skills and background to fulfill the responsibilities. Up until that point, actually, in addition to exhibiting Keith's work, his gallery had single-handedly facilitated and occasionally produced many of Keith's non-gallery projects. So Keith was, at that point, sort of on the cusp of becoming a household name. And with all the myriad unconventional and international projects he pursued, it was definitely time for him to have someone working by his side in his studio to help manage all these activities. My follow-up interview with Keith was interesting. He had not a clue what to ask of his first prospective employee. And for my part, I knew his work from the subway walls and a few gallery shows. But as we chatted, we discovered that we went to many of the same night spots. We had many friends and acquaintances in common. And back then, for this kind of job, for people our age, that meant a lot. And so it kind of sealed the deal.
The 20th anniversary of Keith's death is February 16th. He was only 31 years old, but in the short span of his lifetime, he was able not only to create, but to give back. Even as a young artist, he had a serious commitment to specific causes that were close to him. What were these causes?
Well, Keith was always very responsive and generous to people in need, especially children. He supported many organizations with his artwork. He donated pieces for auctions. He designed logos for charities to assist them with fundraising. He donated his time and eventually his financial resources to many, many children's charities, campaigns for literacy, anti-drug campaigns, campaigns against domestic violence, anti-nuclear, neighborhood safety, humane societies, what else? Arts education, and eventually many, many AIDS organizations.
You are the executive director of the Keith Haring Foundation. When did it start, and what are its main goals?
Keith established his foundation in 1989, just about a year after his HIV diagnosis. By that time, he and I had worked together every day for 5 years. And so in naming me as his foundation's director, he placed his trust in my ability to not only oversee the charitable goals of the foundation, but to sustain, expand, and protect his artistic legacy. So in accordance with his wishes, the Keith Haring Foundation concentrates its giving in two areas: the support of organizations which provide educational opportunities to underprivileged kids, and the support of organizations which engage in research and care with respect to AIDS and HIV infection. Keith also left us, his foundation, a significant collection of his own artwork, which we regularly lend to museums around the world. He also left us instructions to continue licensing his images for charitable and for-profit purposes.
How can people learn more about Keith Haring and the foundation?
Well, I invite everyone in this computer, electronic, digital age to visit our websites at haring.com and haringkids.com. Through these portals, people can find information about upcoming exhibitions, publications, and events, as well as fascinating historical information, archival materials, photography, and essays about Keith and the time in which he lived and worked.
You're listening to Penguin Classics On Air.
This program is brought to you by Penguin Books, the publishers of The Unforgiving Minute. A West Point grad, Rhodes Scholar, and Army Ranger recounts his unparalleled education in the art of war. The Unforgiving Minute is, above all, an unforgettable portrait of a young soldier grappling with the weight of his hard-earned knowledge while coming to grips with becoming a man. The Unforgiving Minute, available now in paperback.